In this installment of Nightmare Masterclass, I'll be giving my thoughts on the latest episode of Twin Peaks. The 8th episode of the 3rd season, titled Got a Light, is one of the weirdest hours of television in the history of the medium. I was totally blown away when I first watched the episode last Sunday, and the more that I've thought about what I witnessed, the more I have to say. This episode is one with almost no dialogue, and yet it works to shed light on so much with respect to the broad story arc of the series. Here's my interpretation of what's going on. Alright, so where we last left off in episode 7, Doppelganger Coop had blackmailed his way out of prison, and out of the kindness of his heart, he took his accomplice Ray here with him. Look at those cheekbones. Now, Ray has some information that Doppelcoop needs, and he wants loads of money in exchange for this information. Doppelcoop attempts to coerce Ray into giving him the info, but he gets the old switcheroo pulled on him. Ray tries to kill Doppelcoop, and some weird shit happens. To be more precise, a bunch of, shall we say, crispy spirits come out of the woodworks and begin rubbing Doppelcoop's wounds. Understandably, Ray freaks out and gets the fuck out of Dodge. But take a quick look at this thing that pops out of Doppelcoop's body. Does that look familiar to you? That's right. It's none other than Bob, the evil spirit that plagued the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks. The very same spirit that took hold of Leland Palmer and killed his daughter Laura. As we well know by now, Bob's been dormant inside Doppelcoop since the end of the 2nd season. Here's where things get interesting. After a lively performance by some band called the 9 Inch Nails, it is confirmed that Doppelcoop is indeed still alive. And we get a flashback to 1945, when the very first atomic bomb was tested in the deserts of New Mexico. If you've been watching my channel, you know that this is a pretty big event, historically speaking. Watch my video on the Doomsday Clock for more context. There's a link to that in the description. Now, before we get into the meat of this, I just want to point out that FBI Director Gordon Cole has a poster depicting an atomic bomb going off in his office. That's a strange coincidence, isn't it? We'll touch back on this in a bit. We get a few shots of a gas station. A number of shadowy figures are seen walking in and out of the building. It would appear that these are the very same charcoal spirits we just witnessed attend to Doppelcoop's bullet wound. Note that inside the nuclear blast, we see a chain reaction going off. Particles are bouncing into one another in a dazzling fashion. I wonder if perhaps these spirits are some kind of figurative representation of this. They're exacerbating the situation on planet Earth. They're making evil stronger in our universe. After all, in the beginning of the episode, we do see them attend to Doppelcoop's wounds, and later on in the episode, one particular spirit makes trouble elsewhere. And he does so by broadcasting a radio transmission, thereby nullifying the public. I think that there may be some kind of political commentary going on here with respect to the whole dawn of the atomic bomb and the way in which that technology impacted the world. Now, inside the nuclear blast, we see the very same creature previously observed in the season 3 premiere. You know, the thing that came out of the box and horrifically murdered those 2 lovebirds? That creature spews forth an egg that looks to be inhabited by, you guessed it, the evil spirit Bob. Keep in mind, this is back in 1945, long before the events of Twin Peaks. Meanwhile, deep on some far-off world, the Giant is alerted of these events. My understanding is that this atomic blast set off a chain of events that opened a portal from another place, allowing Bob to come into our world and later wreak havoc on Twin Peaks. In response to this situation, the Giant sends Laura Palmer to Earth. Laura Palmer is the key to this series. She always has been. Recall that poster on Director Cole's wall in his office. Why do you think he's got that poster there? Well, it could be surmised that Director Cole has the scoop on this whole series of events. Maybe he knows that the atomic blast set off in 1945 is what caused Bob to be unleashed on the world. I mean, one of his best agents went off the radar 25 years ago, and it would be reasonable to assume he's been investigating these supernatural occurrences ever since. But maybe the poster is there for another reason entirely. Maybe it's there to remind Cole of both the awesome and the horrible capabilities of humankind, the potential for evil that rests in his own heart, and indeed the hearts of his colleagues and all of humanity. Maybe it's there as a way to keep him honest. The more I think about it, the more I'm starting to believe the thematic loose ends of the first 2 seasons are all coming together here Now, I know that David Lynch is a bit much for some people. His work is too slow and weird for them. And that's fine. We're all entitled to our opinions. But don't tell me his work is just weird for the sake of weirdness and it's devoid of meaning. It absolutely does have meaning. You just have to do some work to arrive at it. Throughout his career, Lynch's work has been described as a confluence of all-American, Norman Rockwell elements, and dark, absurd, horrifically violent imagery. Wouldn't it be dandy if this third season culminated into an abstract criticism of the American military-industrial complex? Think of all the harm that came about as a product of the nuclear arms race. A generation of people in America grew up in fear that they would be totally eradicated by an all-out nuclear war, and they were fully justified in worrying about that. This is what I believe to be the crux of Lynch's work. Through his art, he's taking back America from the warlords and the nationalist demagogues. He's acknowledging and indeed repudiating the dark and checkered history of our country, while at the same time celebrating our greatest strengths: kindness, community, justice, and courage in the face of insurmountable odds. And you can't have the good without understanding the bad. I think that's kind of the point of the whole series. I have no idea where this is going, but this is what I think Twin Peaks has always been about: the good and the bad of American culture, all wrapped up into one hammy, at times melodramatic, at times unimaginably weird show. And it couldn't have come at a better time. Now I, for one, can't wait to see where it goes next. That wraps it up for this short installment of Nightmare Masterclass. In the next installment, oh God. Thanks for watching, and good night.